Thank you very much, everyone, for coming to this press conference. Hi, and welcome to this press conference. We're going to present in the press conference a film that closes the official section of this edition of the film festival, The Son of Names. And we have with us, and let me introduce you to them, from the right all the way to the person next to me, we've got Robert Lantos, who's the producer, Tim Roth, the actor, and the director, François Girard, who are prepared to answer your questions. So let's start. Over here on the first row. I hope you got... Can you hear me, guys? Great. She's speaking in English, so you don't need translation.
My question is for Tim Roth, actually. So given that the character that you portray has several ages along the movie, how do you work with the other actors that portray your character as well? Well,
we had a bit of time with the younger versions of ourselves, and a lot of it was actually just hanging out, so they could get a sense of you and having a chat and doing that. So because in a way it was for them to pick up certain things about my physicality or whatever, and just introduce them a little bit as they were pushing forward. So it was a journey, but it was, I didn't spend that much time with them, to be honest. Yeah, so hope it worked.
Any further questions? All you've got to do is raise your hand over here in the second row, please.
Another question. Thank you.
Hola, buenas. Hi, good afternoon. Tim Roth, that change in role and register, shall we say, we're used to seeing you in roles which are a bit of characters, which are more threatening than what you... Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? No. Hang on. Espera, Conchita. Oh, okay. Yes, Yes, so can you hear me now? Yes, Mr. Roth? Good. Okay, here we go. She's going to repeat the question. How this change in the roles that you play, because it seems to me that we've always seen you in quite menacing roles in films, or at least these are the ones that have marked your career, shall we say, so to speak. But how have you undertaken this change in register and role in the character you're portraying, a type of film completely different to what you've done in the past? And the director, I would like to ask you whether Clive Owen really plays the violin. Was he able to learn to play the violin, or what happened there?
Okay, so, I don't know, people remember menacing roles, maybe they're easier for the audience. Sometimes those journeys are more entertaining than others. I played all different kinds of roles, but those are the ones that people remember. So maybe that's on you. I don't know. I don't know, really. I don't care. I try and mix it up and play around with different roles as much as possible. Otherwise I'd be bored. And you would be bored too.
And Clive did not play the violin. He had to learn. This is what actors do. And then Jonah Hauer-King, the middle Davidol, did not play, learned to. And the youngest Davidol played excellent violin, but needed to learn to act. So they worked pretty hard, these guys, but in different directions.
Adelante.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hi, good afternoon. Congratulations for the film, by the way. Tim, as well as the director, I would like you, Francois, given the fact that the characters are portrayed by different actors and different stages in their life, I would like to know to what extent Tim Roth bears in mind the portrayal of the younger characters, so that there's a continuity in the different profiles of the actors.
Obviously, the first thing that appeared to me when I read the script was that this would be my biggest challenge, to create the three Martins and the three Davidol, because it's actually two trios, but it's also 3 pairs, so you need to find the chemistry between the young ones, the middle ones, and Clive and Tim. So it's a very interesting puzzle, and then we've spent a lot of time in the script trying to structure that, and then casting was like an incredible puzzle, but then after we did some prep, as Tim said. One thing that was very interesting with the trios of meetings we would have with Geran and Tim and the young Misha, the same thing with the Davidols, is that suddenly you have a kid of 12-year-old who's discussing with Tim, and another one who's never acted in his life, but who's sharing his vision of the character with Clive. So there was this communication of sharing visions, probably more than rehearsals. A couple of things, as Tim said, on physicality. And then the rest is direction and trying to make sure that we flow from one to the other.
I think that a lot of that was just placed in Francois's hands. There was a limited amount that we could bring to that conversation as we were filming at different times, and we were, So it was really on Francois to try and make that as seamless as possible, I think. And
one thing that we did, because obviously we all focus very much on the visual when you do match actors like this, but there was a special effort in the voice. It's a little more obvious on the Davidol because we're talking about a fabricated Polish accent. But even for Tim and Misha and Geran, there was very sensitive work done by Sandra Butterworth. It's actually Tim's dialect coach who worked with the 6, and there was making sure that the voice. If you close your eye, if a blind person sees this film or hears this film, that the connection, the ear connection, the dialect connection was made in the voice.
Hi again. Here. Yeah. For the director this time, how important is religion in this film? I don't know if it's a detail that could have been swapped by something else, or if you use religion as a base for everything else.
How important what?
Religion.
Well, at the core, yes, faith is definitely a big factor, especially in the journey of Davidol. Martin's character is like me, looking from the outside inside the Jewish faith, but even that is not it's not, even Davidol himself is renouncing his own faith. So it's faith and it's no faith and back to faith, and then it's a journey through faith. So the question is important, and the answer was very different depending on what stage the character is in.
I'll add something to that. It's really not so much about faith as it's about loss and reaction to loss. And some people react to loss, as the character that Clive Owen plays, by returning to faith. Many others react to the same loss by entirely leaving the faith and obliterating their memories. So this is a story of someone who reacted to loss by regaining his faith.
Vayamos con la siguiente pregunta.
Next question, please. Hi. There are historic events and dramatic events like the Holocaust that continue to give a lot of arguments and plots 80 years later for films. I would like to ask the director and Tim, what are current events that would be interesting to also, for example, to shoot in a film that are happening nowadays, and perhaps to portray as a film plot, historical events that are occurring nowadays. I hope you caught all that, yes?
Well, film, I think we live in a society that is deeply sick with amnesia. We are more and more prisoner of the present time through technology, our little screens, our little phone. And I think film is still nowadays a great vehicle, a great platform to escape the present and look back at the past or look at the future. Looking at the future often means looking at the past. We are currently facing a very uncertain future, and we have forgotten many great stories from the past. This is one that is, the Holocaust, as you know, is in the background, like we're sort of walking on a volcano and it's not quite visible, but just to say that like 50% of the people under 30 years old nowadays don't even know what the word Holocaust means. So I think collectively, filmmakers, writers, artists, we have a responsibility to look back and make sure that the events from the past are visible from the present.
Why am I doing that? Hi.
You want to hear your own translation?
Oh, yeah. I think there's a film I'm considering making which involves the caging of children at the border between Mexico and America. And that seems highly reminiscent of what these guys were talking about with regards to the Holocaust aspect. In the removal of people, taking away of people's freedom and the rejection of sympathy and asylum for these people. So I think it seems to echo what Robert was, when I first met with these guys, it seems that it's a very, I would say the Holocaust is recent history, but we're in danger of repeating ourselves, is what I would say. And so that's why the making of this film is so kind of, it's modern in a sense. I find it to be a modern story. Does that make sense to you?
I agree. We keep repeating.
And so there is a story to be told that is that's modern, that's up to date, that is present, that is happening, but is in a different country, in a different world from the one that we made, maybe.
We keep repeating ourselves.
Yeah.
There have been genocides in Africa long after the Holocaust.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only chance I think we have is to learn from the past in order to avoid doing it all over again.
Yeah.
And that's really our motivation for making this film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adelante.
Yes, please. Hi. Hi, did you know the novel that the film's based upon? I would like to know whether you do. And for the three of you, obviously. And then, as regards to the final result of the film, do you think it's sufficiently faithful enough to the real events? Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied with the results of how the film has turned out as well?
Well, faithful, like we just said that the Holocaust history is a ghost background to our story. Our characters are fictitious, so like it was more a matter of being faithful to the book. But even there, like between the book and the script, there's a great structural differences. Jeffrey King took Norman Lebrecht's book and restructured it completely. Same characters, the essence is there. So I guess we're faithful to the essence. At least Norman Lebrecht seems to think so. He's written it quite eloquently in his own website, blog. But eventually, like I guess we're all embarking. It's becoming. There's a book, yes, but there's characters, and then like Tim is battling for his character, so we have to find what the truth is there. So it's not so much being faithful to a story or yes to a story, but the book gave birth to characters that we collectively fought for, and then that's the truth we're looking for.
Preguntó si estamos satisfechos.
Yes, you asked whether we were satisfied with the result. You said we're satisfied with the result of the film. Yes, perhaps I said that, but what I meant, I didn't mean to say it, or exactly that. What I would like to ask you, what I meant was, do you see an enormous difference with the result? The result and what? And the film and the book. Well, yes, there are differences, as always, almost always, but we respect the spirit of the book, and the author of the book is in love with the film, so therefore we're all pretty happy with the result, end of the day. That's what I'm trying to say.
The book, he's not writing a Bible, he's giving birth to characters and he's following the characters from page to page, chapter to chapter, and then the screenwriter did the same thing, and eventually we're chasing the characters, and then we're in the editing room and we keep chasing. And then Norman Lebrecht would tell me at one point like that he has learned stuff about the characters, his own characters that he's written. He's learned things that he'd never thought about before. This is our little contributions day per day, like bringing colors, digging out meanings, and this is. But it's a living matter. Like there's nothing in stone, neither in the book nor in the film.
Quizá me pongo un poco poética.
Perhaps, please, but she's getting a bit poetic, and she says, "Can I?"
It's wonderful. It's amazing in the film.
She says she's going a bit poetic, and she'd like to know. She thinks the music is marvelous. Could you talk about the music in the film as a way of communication?
Obviously, like the title says it, the music is an important vehicle in this story. It's not a film about music, but the music is at the core. The title scene, the pivotal scene is musical. The most crucial information is carried through a song, not through dialogues. And yes, like it's a. I heard you like without translation talking about the power of music as a language.
That's right.
I was with my sound man that for some reasons I've been working in many different languages, and then we just came up with this film. We made it to 17 languages, Claude and Francis and myself. But the most powerful of all languages is music. It doesn't need any subtitles, travel across the borders, touch the heart in ways that words can't. And I think we're very lucky to work with Howard Shore. Like, it was an incredible companion. Way before we started shooting, Howard was part of a writing team, so we wrote this film with words, also with notes, and Howard contributed greatly.
Mm-hmm. And for Robert, the biggest challenge with the Robert, different times in the film.
The biggest challenge is finding a way to make an ambitious film on a large canvas in the independent world, which is a world that is an endangered species. It's different than it was 10 or 15 years ago. Today we live in a world where cinemas have become homes for people who can fly and put out fires with their eyes and lift skyscrapers in their finger. And then we have the streamers who keep people at home. So in that world, finding sufficient financing and distribution for a film of this ambition and scope, that was the challenge of the producer, not just me, but my two producing partners, Lise Lafontaine and Nick Hirschkorn, who are sitting right there. It's not something that I recommend for anyone. It's certainly something I talk anybody who asks me about. I say, don't do it, especially now. Find something else. But I'm stuck with it because I am addicted. So that the challenge was, here was a phenomenal book, screenplay, story, important to tell. So it became our burden to figure out how.
And talking about challenges, Rod.
Hablando de desafíos, Rod, Tim, ¿cuál ha sido el mayor con tu personaje?
I suppose the performing of him, really. I mean, he was a boy who felt dispossessed by his family. Then he fell in love with the object of his envy, and then it was joined to the hip, at the hip with him, and then he vanished. He lost him. It was a great loss. And then he settled with that and suffered the consequences of his own actions and the actions of that separation. And then he went on, got the scent of the love of his life and chased him down. And it was a constantly moving target for me, I thought. The character and the story were a constantly moving kind of challenge. So all of it, really. And then you have to do a good job of trying to act him. That's the tricky bit, I suppose.
Thank you. Tenemos aquí alguna pregunta.
Another question.
One, hello again. What do you find in the story that you found so attractive? What do you see that you thought I have to be in the project? For all of you, really, yeah.
Oh, for me, I liked that it was a world I didn't know anything about. I had no real comprehension of that. I think you had been trying to get this made for a long time, right? This is one of those. When you came to me, I think you.
Yes, and before me, Nick tried to make it for a long time, so it's had a long history.
Yeah, it was elusive. I liked that. I liked that. It was everyone was just kind of chasing something. Yeah, it's good. What about you, François?
For me, the answer to your question is there's a scene in the film which we shot in the. What they call the I don't know why we call it concentration camp, because they're really extermination facilities, but camp sounds very jovial. And a place called Treblinka, where 800,000 people were murdered. And in the middle of this extermination facility, there's a sign, there's a monument, and carved on a stone are two words in many languages. And the words are never again. And really, if I had to narrow it down to one reason why I wanted to make this film, those are the two words.
Yeah, and if I can add to this, complete agreements here. So we talked about the mission of the remembrance mission and looking back in the past, but I think what attracted me beyond that is the intimacy, because it's a pretty large scope. Tim's character goes around north of England, London, Warsaw, Treblinka, New York, Brooklyn. So there's scope. We're in period, the Second World War, but what really I thought was both very attractive and difficult is the intimacy. The intimacy between these two characters in 6 actors. And I have to say that Tim's character, Martin, is on the page is a very difficult character to play, because he's not the most colorful. If you can imagine how it's, he's a sleeper, and then suddenly he's fired up by this clue that maybe Davidol still exists. But the journey of Martin is crucial. This is the narrative drive, and I think we were very lucky to have Tim play it, because he brought to a character that could have been easily been sugary or dull. I think Tim brought the edge that the film needed, and this is my chance to say I'm grateful. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, man.
I'd like to ask the director. I'd like to ask you about that search. That it reminded me of those searches where we try to do now in Facebook, for example, trying to find someone from our past. And when we find them, sometimes it could be quite frustrating, because he or she is another person. And I would also like to ask you, it's reminded me about the music box by Costa Gavras. Do you think that... are they twinned, those two stories, to us, or those types of films? And Tim Roth, I'd like to ask you whether for you it's special to give a happy ending this evening to the closing ceremony at the San Sebastian Film Festival. What does that mean to you?
It makes me think that it would have been probably much easier for Martin to find Davidol in 2019. would need probably a better carbon footprint too. We wouldn't need to travel that much. Google would be probably a very useful tool. And what about the happy ending?
We arrive at the happy ending is that we arrive at the San Sebastian Film Festival. Yeah, couldn't be better. Yeah, loving it. Absolutely.
Okay. We've got a question in the second row. I'd like to ask Tim Roth. At this stage in your career, you've made so different types of films, so many types of films. What moves you in order to accept the project? What does a film or a series, TV series, or a series have to have for you to work in it?
I don't have an agenda, and I think that's my agenda. Script first, generally. If you're not worried about paying the rent and keeping the roof on, it's script first. And so if a story comes to you, putting aside whether it's elegantly told at the moment, it's always going to be a work in progress. But if the story is intriguing and it drags you in, great storytelling will do that anyway. Then I'm hooked, I suppose. So, yeah. First of all, I want to see how the character functions within the landscape that they've created, and then move forward from there. But really, it's just a good. This is, I think, what they brought to me was a very good yarn, an incredible story. Then you pick it apart and you go to work on it. It's an extraordinary story, beautiful. I wanted to be part of it.
Muy bien, pues para terminar.
Okay, in order to finish, the San Sebastian Films Festival is an opportunity to see great projects, new projects, and the audience aren't premiered sometimes. Take advantage to Robert, for example, to ask you where is this film going to be premiered for the general audience beyond the San Sebastian Festival? Is there any date for the premiere? Yes, after the festival, you mean? Yes, in film theaters. The Spanish distributor could probably respond better, so we don't have a date. No, they're over there, Filmex. They're sitting down there. Ask them. Do we have a date? I'm sorry. At the end of January, it seems. That's good. So if anyone wants to ask a final question, you're still in time. Any questions? All right, well, if not, thank you very much for coming along.